Welcome to another series of wheels. The conventional, the orthodox, the practical, I'm afraid are not on the menu. But if it's speed, colour and skill you're looking for, with a hint of danger lurking, then you've come to the right place. Starting with the sport which always turns the heads, from Santa Pod, drag racing.
It's not just cars in drag at Santa Pod, it's the second round of the 6th-round UK Drag Bike Championship. And I'll be taking a look at some pretty radical machinery a little bit later on. But just a thought to leave you with, 0 to 100 miles an hour in 1 second, mainly on one wheel.
First, it's Top Fuel. The clear favourites here, Liv Berstad from Norway, out of luck recently. For Liv, this is only a hobby. She's a financial controller of a big clothing chain based in Fredrikstad. But is she as motivated as she was? Her main rival, the German Rico Antes, the Dick Dastardly of drag racing. Promoter and driver, the man who put in the fastest time on the European track here last September, 5.11. And there's no doubting his commitment this season.
Well, there you are, 5.44, it says it all, 256 miles per hour, and the first outing this weekend for the German Rico Antes. Is he the man likely to put us first in the fours?
Yeah, it's hard to tell. I mean, it's the first time we've been on that track again since 1 year, and you never know what the track looks like. I mean, you don't want to go out there and smoke the tires or whatever. I mean, you want to see where you're at and go from there.
Here they go, the second set of luck, come on, there's the green, and Livy away first, really going for it in that left-hand lane, runs 5.40, 5.40, takes Livy to the #1 qualifying spot.
I'm still enthusiastic about it. Of course, I love racing, but I have a problem because I have a job at home, and it's not an 84 job. So with all the racing now, all the traveling, sometimes it's a little bit difficult, but it's okay most of the time.
But is your enthusiasm still there for Top Fuel?
Yes, it is.
In the first semi-final, it was Pelle Lindelöf from Sweden, still suffering from a back injury he incurred here last year. And that's his opponent, Rico Antes from Germany.
And so far, the quickest man in the competition this weekend is not a man at all, but it's a lady, Liv Berstad, who snatched the #1 position from Rico Antes. Rico ran a 5.44 during qualifying and put himself in the #2 spot, up against the #3 qualifier here from Stockholm, Pelle Lindelöf. This man, Rico Antes, has run the quickest of anybody in Europe, 5.11, just knocking on the door of a 4-second pass. Here we go, moving into stage. It's all down to the drivers now. Rico fully in stage, waiting for Pelle to come fully in. Here we go! And it's Rico Antes away with his Top Fuel car, really putting down the numbers. 5.36, 258 miles per hour. Wow, what a race. And Pelle Lindelöf losing out with a 6.09 at 208 miles per hour. Rico walked all over him. Here they go with the burnout. Well, I don't know whether Vivica Avestad has got a problem here, but she's just rolled across the start line. They had problems here yesterday with the clutch on this machine, and she's signalling it's no good. It looks as though she's going to cut the engine. She's rolling back, but certainly there was no burnout from her. So it's a one car race only. And I think Vivica is shutting down the Grundig car, which is a great shame. We've actually seen her put in one full pass here this weekend. So it's going to be Liv Bjerstad. But still the cars are running, and I'm just wondering, no, they've just leaned out Vivica's car. So it is Liv Bjerstad on her own into the final, and what a great shame for the Grundig team as they push the car back. And now let's watch Liv Bjerstad, the Mobile 1 car, as she comes up to the line. Just remember, of course, we've watched Rico Antes run a 5:36. Liv with this car holds the European record at 5.13, right the way through 5:28. 277 miles per hour, and the crowd going absolutely wild here at Santa Pod because the lady is not for turning. She must be the favourite for this race today.
A great run, that one, 5:28.
Yeah, it was. I hope I'm lucky, yeah.
Tell us how it felt. Does it feel as if everything was running smoothly?
Yeah, it felt much stronger than last time I was running. You could tell on the pressure on me. Oh, it felt very well.
Next, the pro-modified class, the fastest saloons in drag racing. Tony Rose from Luton was expected to be among the front runners here in a small but competitive field. Opened up because former champion Tim Cook isn't racing this year. Alan Packman from Upminster in Essex in his Ford Scorpio was another leading contender, probably the pre-race favourite in the class which chases the 200 miles an hour mark. But a hint of things to come perhaps came when Andy Robinson from Basingstoke, driving Colin Taylor's Ford Thunderbird for the first time, easily saw off another Essex man, Dave Mingay. But in this championship, we attached our colours to the Red Devil of Dave Warne from Bolton, Lancashire.
I like door slammers. I like, cars that represent something that's everybody can drive. If you like dragsters, you want to be a top fuel driver. If you like door slammers, Pro Modify is the way to go.
Dave's quarter-final race in his Pontiac Trans Am was easier than it should have been. This was against Glenn Dumont of New Barnet, Hertfordshire. Dumont jumped the lights, he went too soon and automatically disqualified himself. But when Dave himself ran, he pulled a red light.
So Dave Warne, his son Paul, who's his crew chief, just switching on the onboard computer as they come up to the start line with the red Minas Hill Trans Am. And here we go. This is what it looks like. Changes gear, changes into next gear, and here we go, travelling somewhere around about 190 miles an hour almost, with Dave Warne and that big Trans Am, 8.02 seconds.
It's a bad run. When I was trying to purge the nitrous, the wire had broke, so I got a bit apprehensive. The other guy staged before he should have done, he went. Then when I staged, I was a bit nervous and I pulled a red light, but it's either worst or first. And this was the first offence, so I've got through. So it was a good mile per hour, 189, but a bad ET at 80, so hopefully we can go back and step it up a bit.
And it's semi-finals in Pro Modify, these really wild door slammers, and we're back. You can see the smoke inside this car. This is after the burnout for Big Dave Warne, sponsored by Crunch Motor Salvage in the Minas Hill Trans Am. And you can just see all that smoke in there. The driver has to live with that while he comes up to the line. And he's up against this other new import from the States, this beautiful Oldsmobile Cutlass, Tony Rose on board. Well, Dave Wall ran an 8.02 to get through into this round. Tony Rose is running down into the 7s with his machine now. So this could really be anybody's. Our camera's with Dave Wall. Well, who's going to be in the final with these two? And away together, but Wall drives past Tony Rose. Has Rose got anything to come back with? But Wall takes the win, and look at that, 7.40, 188 miles per hour. A good race though, Tony Rose losing out with a 7.66. And this is a real joy for me to be able to sit with Big Dave in his car. And here we go, away from the start line. Just watch that hood come up as he drives off away from the start line. And we're not going to see Tony Rose again. We'll just watch Dave go through the motions of changing gear, thoroughly in control, one hand on the steering wheel right the way through the quarter mile.
A lot better, yes. We seem to have sorted the electrical problem out. It's still not going as well as it should, but I'm happy we're through to the final.
But there was a problem with the parachute.
Yes, I don't know why I pulled the lever and nothing come out, and I thought I was going to end up in the field. But look, it's a good headwind, it slowed me down a bit.
And in the final, Dave will meet Andy Robinson, who is getting better and better in Colin Taylor's Thunderbird. It's top alcohol next, the methanol-powered dragsters, the first round of the English Championship. No Steve Reed, he's racing around the world, which opened up the competition here with Rob Turner of Northamptonshire trying to find some early season consistency.
It's going to be a cracking run, it is indeed. 6.66, 212 miles per hour. Rob Turner really is back on form again.
Another favourite, Barry Sheebles, the Nottinghamshire businessman. New engine, high hopes. But he stalls it on the line. He's out. That's drag racing. Definitely in, Craig Lowe's from Welwyn Garden City, continuing the improvement curve as he powers away here from Ken McCormack in the first round.
Very pleased with it. The car ran really well. I shut it off a little bit early because it's a brand new blower on the car, and without being able to have a test run with it, we wanted to just check all the readings. So very pleased with it indeed. It's nice to finish first. It's only the first round, and obviously we're trying to get through to the final.
And it seems to be getting progressively better.
Yeah, that's right. And we've actually renamed the team Team Kaizen, which is a Japanese continuous improvement philosophy.
During our qualifying, Tony Betts had run a 7.08 and Paul Jackson a 7.34. So these two very, very evenly matched as we move forward into the staging beams. They start to build the revs up. And Tony Betts is in full stage, waiting for Paul Jackson to ease the wheel forward. And I rather think, there we go, he's rolled too far forward. There he's in stage, there's the green. And away together. Well, has the bunny car got the power to stay out in front of the dragster? That could be anybody's, but it's not. Right at the top there, it is the Topolino of Tony Betts who takes the win, bouncing to a stop there with a parachute out. That must be so uncomfortable in there. And look at these times. He takes the win with a 7.09. The quicker time losing out for Paul Jackson's 7.06.
The Altereds definitely bounce about over the track. They're a bit wandery, but they're much more exciting than the rails, you know. So, yeah, I'm pleased with the run. It's the best we've done. So we're looking forward to the next round, hopefully.
What's it like bouncing along at the end there? It looks very spectacular. How's it feel in there?
Hairy, definitely hairy. It's an experience all of its own. I've never drove anything like it. They're wild, they're fast, exciting. The crowds love them. It's great.
Next round of alcohol brings together two of the quickest men here this weekend. Rob Turner here with his car got through into this round with a run of 6.66, but he is up against a man who at the moment thinks he can do no wrong. He really has had a good 1993. That's Craig Lowe's. He got through into this round with a run of 6.84 in the team total car, and he is feeling very confident at this point in time. Rob Turner has been away from racing for about a year, but now back in with a vengeance, really stamped his authority on this particular meeting. But I wonder what's going to happen when these two go head-to-head on this round. Here we go, building up the revs. Easing those cars in. Here comes the green. And it's Craig Lowe's who's away first. Is this going to be an upset? Is it going to be Lowe's who go towards the top end? It's Turner. Just at the finish line. Rob Turner takes the win, 6.44, but it was right on the finish line. I'm sure away from the start line it was Craig Lowe's who whole shot Rob Turner. It was indeed, and that left Rob Turner very much in the chase situation, and the power of that ex-Corey McLenithan car telling as they get towards the top end. Watch this as he goes right by Craig Lowe's and finishes about half a car length in front.
Rob, you're through. Did that all go completely according to plan?
Yes. We've been struggling for the past few meetings, but the crew have got a handle on it now. We've got the best crew in the business, I think. I can't thank them enough.
Antonio Betts moved smoothly, in a manner of speaking, into the final when he ran unopposed in the other semi. We'll take a break here. Next, it's the bikes.
After 20 years of following motorcycling, I thought I knew a bit about motorcycles, but believe me when I say, drag racing motorcycles are completely different to anything you've ever seen before. Chris Hampson's funny bike is about as radical as any motorcycle can ever get. Chris, you seem like a fairly sane sort of a man, holding down a good job at JCB, journalistic tendencies, even the committee member of the ACU for organising this particular thing. What on earth brought you to drag racing?
The idea that it was an activity where all the effort was channeled in one direction, really. There's no compromises. It's straight line speed, that you build a bike to do that and that alone.
Chris Hampson's machine is a funny bike. There are so few of them, they have to compete with the top fuel bikes, the two classes where we are genuinely on a par with the Americans. Some fascinating engineering, 3-speed transmission with a power shift system which works with the help of compressed air. It's a very powerful piece of machinery.
It's originally an 1100 GSX Suzuki engine, which is very popular in drag racing. It's probably the most popular engine because it's good and strong. We've then turbocharged it. It's got nitrous oxide injection and a number of other goodies inside as well. It's also 1260cc instead of the original 1100.
Okay, now hold all that on the ground. We've got the huge rear wheel to actually get some traction with, and this thing on the back, the gantry, the wheelie bar.
Yeah, the wheelie bar started off as a safety device some time ago in drag bike racing, but now it is essential for the bike to work properly. You need to get maximum weight transfer on the back wheel, which means getting the front tyre off the ground. Obviously, if you do that, you're going to fall over the back of the thing. So the wheelie bar enables the front wheel to stay off the ground safely.
That's Phil Bainbridge from Birmingham on his all-new machine. And here we go with a static burnout and two different bikes you couldn't hope to see, because we're running in top fuel bike and we have got a supercharged nitro burning bike in the hands of Phil Bainbridge, and in the hands of Chris Hampson, a turbocharged Suzuki. Now these two machines are coming out here to do battle, and what we're going to do is we're going to have a look from behind Chris Hampson. We've got an onboard camera right behind his right leg, and we're going to see just exactly what it's like to go with this turbocharged machine. It almost pulls Chris's arms out of his sockets when it leaves the start line. Faster acceleration over the first 60 feet than the fuel bike, but the fuel bike really does catch up as they go along. And here we go, you can see this happening now. Bainbridge drives by Chris Hampson, runs through 7.80. Chris Hampson completes the run 8.21. These monsters of the two-wheel brigade. Here we go with Chris Hampson. You can see that front wheel is just not on the ground. We're pointing almost skywards with this. And let's look out the side and see if we can see Phil Bainbridge drive by. He'll be coming through roundabout now. There he goes. Bainbridge passed on the outside. And look at the gap at that finish line.
It was going well until about halfway down the track, and then the nitrous system blocked up. Just before the finish line, it cleared itself and then wouldn't shut off. So I had to reach up to the handlebars, shut the master arming switch off. By the time I got my hands back on the bars, the wind had pushed me right over to the guardrail. So I was within inches of bailing off down the guardrail.
Drag bike racing carries an elaborate but fair scoring system. Hundreds of points are at stake at each round. Points are routinely awarded for turning up at the track, qualifying and elimination wins. But there are bonuses for setting the top speed and fastest elapsed time in qualifying or racing. Big bonuses are also awarded for setting new track records in each class. One of the classes with the biggest fields is Super Street.
Well, basically this is a normally aspirated motorcycle. Some guys run nitrous oxide and turbos, but this is carbureted only, running on street legal fuel.
We're into the next round of Super Street Bike. And the #1 qualifier up against this man. This is Pete Jones. Got through into this round with a run of 9.61. These Super Street Bikes where anything goes. And Ian Dales, furthest from the camera, the man who was right down into the 8-second brackets during qualifying, up against the man who is on average about a second slower. So what Pete Jones is hoping for is a problem for Ian Dales. Pete Jones hooks up that front wheel, almost wheeling the quarter mile, but Ian Dales is heading up towards the top end, right down across that bike. He's still in the 8s, 8.99, 157 miles per hour. A convincing win for last year's champion Ian Dales.
After this run, it looked as if Ian Dales was in for a good day, but an official protest had been lodged by another competitor claiming technical skullduggery. Was Dales' bike using an electronically triggered gear shift system, something strictly outlawed in Super Street racing, or did he change gear manually? That was the question. After worried faces in the Dales camp and protests of innocence from Dales himself, the official scrutineers decided he would not be disqualified and would be allowed to race in the next round under official observation. Meanwhile, an interesting little family affair was taking shape. The Turner brothers are due to meet in the semi-final. Roger, in the green helmet, against Dave. They've got a motorcycle shop in Chalk Farm, London. Now it's head-to-head confrontation on the track.
We don't very often meet in the finals or semi-finals because we normally qualify first and second.
Now, who is the quickest and who holds the records?
Well, at the moment, I hold the record. Last month, I broke Dave's record, which he held all last year. It's now at 8.46 at 174 miles an hour. Dave and I are actually the only two street bikes over 170 miles an hour at the end of a quarter of a mile.
But do you work on each other's bikes together, or is it a very personal thing?
No, it's a very personal thing. Both do our own bikes.
Who has the better bike?
I'd say Dave probably has the more state-of-the-art bike, but I have the more brutal, holding the bull by the horns type bike.
So what are the tactics here? Have you got, for instance, the lane you want?
No, I haven't. He's got lane choice. I went slower in the last run.
So how do you actually get on? You're in the same business together, you're competing against each other, you don't have the same bikes. Is this healthy?
Well, we run laser motorcycles in London together, and we seem to get on fine during working hours, but obviously once we're out on the track, then there's no punches pulled.
Any tactics you can tell us about that you can't tell him?
No, I think he knows it all. He's seen it all.
So who is the favourite as we go into this one?
He is.
I am.
Well, you were slower.
I just like to lull him into a false sense of security. He's the favourite.
Well, Roger says that he thinks Dave is the favourite. I don't know, I'm going to hedge my bets here. I've watched these two racing loads of times, not against one another, and I always find Roger to be the most aggressive. But let's see how he get on, and it certainly looks to be Dave away first, and it could be Roger's prediction is right as they head through the 8th mile marker. It is certainly Dave Turner. Roger was coming back at the top end, but how's that for drag racing? 8.67 takes the win over the losing brothers. 8.70, and Dave looks back. You were right, Roger. I am the champ. The start line is all important here. And we'll see who's away, and it was definitely brother Dave Turner who was away first, leaving brother Roger in the chase situation, and that's how it finished up. So we've got Dave Turner in the final. Now who is it who is going to match up with this man? Our #1 qualifier is out there in the right-hand lane, furthest away from the camera as we now look at it. That's Ian Dales, sponsored by B&M Racing on his Suzuki. And Mark Fossey, closest to us. Both of these men this weekend running right down into the 8-second bracket. Well, we've just seen one finalist in the 8, and look at Ian Dales really hooking up that front, and that has hurt him. Mark Fossey has just driven by him. He really hooked up that front wheel, shut off, and then hooked up again. But it's Mark Fossey who goes into the final and knocks out the #1 man, Ian Dales. Well, it's unusual for Ian Dales to be knocked out when he was on a winning streak, and he's away first, but you can see what's happened there. Pulling that wheelie has really hurt his time, because all the while that front wheel was up and he's coming back down, now wrestling with the gearbox. Mark Fossey uses that and drives by him. Congratulations to Mark, unlucky to Ian.
Well, this is a sight you don't often see, coming up in here into my palatial palace in the top of the control tower at Santa Pod, and what a wonderful place it is. People outside of Santa Pod think this is the place to be in. They think we're centrally heated, they think we're always cool in summer and warm in winter. Not quite the case. I've been here for the last 12 and 13 years, and I've never been hot or cold at the correct times. But talking about old times, this is a photograph of a callow youth some 30 years ago. Looks reasonably familiar. Sit-up-and-beg Fords. These Fords have been around, believe it or not, in this country for around about 50 years now. The idea originally started off with the good old Fords of America coming over and buying 15 small British cars, taking them back to America and designing their own little Ford for Great Britain. From that developed the Ford Populars, the Ford Anglias and the Ford Prefects, which seem to be so popular today with our drag racing fraternity. But why?
Years ago when we was kids, with my sisters and that, my dad used to have a Ford Anglia. We used to go out and it down the coast, and we always had one since.
I think the old cars have got a lot more character than the new cars, and this is a 40-year-old car. It's 1953, and it's got 4 years of history behind it, and it's running quicker than it ever has.
It's an English car, and people can relate to it, granddads and the older sort of people, and they can relate to what it used to be like, and the fact that it's now running 7 litres of engine with really big tyres, and it draws a lot of attraction at the track.
It's getting bigger all the time. I think people like seeing a new car go against an old car on equal terms, and drag racing is one of the only sports where you can see an old car run against a new car on an equal footing.
Working against Chris Isaacs, and Jeff Martin really bouncing the Jaguar powered Reliant kitten away there. But look, Chris Isaacs coming back. Has he got the power to get by Jeff Martin? Neil Grant hooking up the front. They're both very, very potent machines, these two. As you like, providing you don't go quicker than 9.90. They're side by side, these two. It's going to be a breakout special, and it's Alan O'Connor who takes it. I think it's 9.9 as we go towards the top end. It's Kurt Hinchcliffe who gets there, but he breaks out in a huge way. 9.57, exactly what Dave Pearce wanted to do. Pearce runs a perfect 9.91. Oh, and that was an absolutely superb start there for Neil Grant. He wants to try and get to the top end in front of that dragster, but not go quicker than 10.55, and he runs 10.67. Our sit-up and bed car marches on. Congratulations.
We'll take a break here. On to the finals next, 4 wheels and 2. Welcome back. The best of the finals from Santa Pod now, where there's always a special place for the funny cars. At this main event meeting, though, they were playing a supporting role. Their big weekend comes in the first week of July, the Cannonball, which we shall be covering in wheels, where no doubt we shall see what progress local man Clive Michel has made. Now he has joined the ranks of the more conventional-bodied funny car breed.
And it looks as though it's going to be Clive Michel on his own. Harlan has got some problems down there. Definitely got problems. Clive going up to the line. Let's have a look and see. It's the quickest two who go into the big bunch of that. And that looks a brilliant run from Clive Michel all the way through. A puff of smoke at the top end. 6.71, 211 miles per hour.
We shall also see confrontations like this one between John Spufford and Alan Bates.
So up to the start line. Here we go, they're away together, and Alan Bates, shots John Spufford, but Spufford, a great bit of driving, drives straight by, takes the win. There he is, the win of the Big Butt Shootout, 6.17, but great joy for the Alan Bates team because they run their first ever 6.96 at 159 miles per hour.
But for the moment, the funny cars take a backseat as we move into the main event finals. First, the top alcohol final, where Tony Betts turned a few heads with his extravagant burnout. He was up against Northamptonshire's Rob Turner.
Well, if the win was going to the person who did the smokiest burnout, then I'm sure the man we're looking at now would take the win quite comfortably in this first round of the alcohol challenge. This is Tony Betts from Essex with his Fiat Topolino bodied, alcohol altered, and a real stormer of a burnout across that start line with 2 great rubber strips right the way down that the crew will now plonk him back in to get as much adhesion as he can get away from the start line, because he is going to need it here. He's up against Rob Turner, and Rob really back on form here this weekend. And Tony Betts has lost fire. It's going to be a 1 car only. Well, there's problems there for the Fiat Topolino. What a great shame. So there's a problem, and it's going to be Rob Turner on his own, picking up maximum points here this weekend. And let's just see what he puts down for his last run of the day. Straight as an eye, right the way through, the quickest ever for ages. 6.35, 212 miles per hour. Superb stuff from Rob Turner, and proves that Rob is back on form. And watch out, everybody else.
That was a disappointment. There was a great burnout, and then what happened?
Yeah, we tried to do a burnout for the crowd. They love a good burnout. We went for it. We've had a problem with the seal all weekend, and it's finally just give out on us. One of them things. Disappointed, but just like to say well done to Rob.
Well, the final of Super Street Bike sees one of the brothers that we were talking to earlier on. This is Dave Turner up against Mark Fossey, and you can really see what a bright, colourful set of machines these are. Very, very fast indeed, and I think we're going to be looking where we've got a problem. Mark Fossey has lost fire on the start line, and I was just going to say I reckon we were going to have a side-by-side 8-second run here, but it's an automatic win for Dave Turner. What great hard luck for Mark Fossey there. Dave absolutely nailing it though. He's not letting up. He's really going for the run, and look at that! 8.39, the quickest ever here at Santa Pod for a street bike. 8.39, 158 miles per hour. That is the quickest time we have ever seen.
In the championship, it's you and your brother at the head of the field, isn't it?
I think it is now, yeah. He was first and I was second before this meeting. I think it must have swapped round now.
So you've overtaken him now?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Oh, there's going to be some rivalry in the family for the rest of the season then.
Yeah, lots.
But today was your day, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, this is Chris Hall, just about to start his static burnout, and he looks over his shoulder. He's waiting for Phil Bainbridge. Bainbridge is going to come through and do a rolling burnout. Well, two really different types of motorcycles here. 1327 cc's of nitro burning Puma here in the hands of Phil Bainbridge. Really out this weekend for the first time with this bike in full competent state and doing very, very nicely, thank you, running right down into the low 8-second bracket. And up against Chris Hall, who this weekend, with his Suzuki funny bike with those colossal wheelie bars on the back, is running with his old Kawasaki engine in there. And I just had a quick word with him underneath the control tower, and he said it's not running well at all this time. So he's hurt his normal Suzuki engine, which totals up to something like 1700 cc's, but he's back with his old Kawasaki plant. Now what we should see here is Hall leave the line first, but the power of the nitro burner in the hands of Phil Bainbridge should manage to overhaul him. But let's wait and see. But it's a great start by Bainbridge. Bainbridge away right from the start out in front, really heading towards the finish line, and he gets it. And look at that time, 7.65, 180 miles per hour. He takes the win quite comfortably. But Chris Hall doesn't lose out too badly, 8.75 at 148 miles per hour.
It's about the straightest one we've done all weekend, which was nice. These things are built to run quick, and if you lose power, the back wheel gets all, you know, if it's not taut with the acceleration, it all flops and they can go all over the place. It doesn't matter what you do to them. So we're a bit more pleased. I think that was a reasonably good pass as well. Felt a lot better.
It's Ray Guy with the black and flame Ford Pop up against Lorraine Payne. Lorraine Payne has got the big Dodge, the orange Dodge, a darling time for her of 11.90, a darling time for Ray Guy of 11.50. So the lady will be going first. There she goes, and almost before she's away from the start line, Ray Guy is up and running. Now this could really be a battle of the breakout here. Ray Guy just running alongside. It's the first one to dip the nose over. Who's it going to be? It's the lady who takes it, 11.95. I rather think that Ray got there first, but he broke out. He had a dialed-in time of 11.50 and ran 11.47. So at the start line, we wait for that split-second difference between them as the lights burn down. There's the rain away. Ray Guy follows quite quickly on, but he really was in that chase situation. And as they go towards the top end, let's watch very closely to see who goes across that finish line first. And it was, oh, look at that, it was Lorraine who got there first, but just by a whisker. And it's another Mopar against a sit-up and beg fall, this time in the hands of Gordon Smith against Neil Grant with the black Ford Pop. And a darling time for the Pop of 10.55, darling time for Gordon Smith of 10.45. So hardly anything between the two of them. Could this be a battle of the breakouts again at the top end? They're heading there, it looks close, Gordon Smith comes back, but Neil Grant takes the win right on the line. Well, this was so close between these two. They had almost identical dial-in times, just a tenth between them. So a blinking of the eyelid between these two. And Neil Grant in the sit-up and beg car. And a winner for one of our sit-up and beg Fords. Just hangs on in there as Gordon Smith comes back so strong at the top end, but just couldn't do it. And yet more sit-up and beg Ford time as we move into the final of Supergas. And here he is, Alan O'Connor, with the black and flame Ford Anglia against the Ford Falcon of Mark Anderson. And this could well be the first one to the top who doesn't break out. Alan O'Connor can be pushed into a breakout situation, and the man who could do it is this well-on form Mark Anderson with this beautiful Ford Falcon. So here we go, into stage, the green's away, O'Connor's away first, but Anderson is right there with him and draws alongside of Al O'Connor. Al knows that car so well. They're getting up towards the top end, they're slowing down. Goes through, and it is Al O'Connor who takes the win. Yet another win for a sit-up and beg car, 10 seconds at 120 miles an hour, but lose out in that right-hand lane, a perfect 9.90. Away from the start, this must have been the start line, and look at that, Alan O'Connor away so very, very quickly indeed. An almost perfect start line reaction for him. And they're off and running, leaving Mark Anderson in the chase situation. And Al's Gasser out in front, coming towards the top. Now just watch this Falcon come back. O'Connor's slowing at this point in time, but he gets there first. Oh, they've been so close, these races. We're moving on to the final of these incredible door slammers. And there's all that burnout smoke in the cockpit of Dave Warren's car. And so far we've been riding with the winner. Now what's going to happen in the final? Because if we look across to the Thunderbird of Andy Robinson, now driving Colin Taylor's machine, what a weekend these boys have had. From being a non-competitive car, a whole turnaround this weekend, until it's suddenly running down into the sevens and in his first final, both for the car and for the driver. And here is Dave Warren. Our car, our in-car camera is with Dave as he sits there just easing the machine up into stage. His crew chief just pushes the computer on and walks away from the car. And now this is it, the 7-second cars heading down towards the sixes. Terminal speeds approaching 200 miles per hour. Building up the revs, Dave Warren goes into stage. The Thunderbird of Andy Robinson eases in. Here we go, right on the revs, and there's problems there for Dave Warren. He's stationary on the start line. He's really in a chase situation. Can he do it? Can he come back on Andy Robinson? He can't. Well, there was a problem on the start line there. Dave runs through 8.02, but all credit to Andy Robinson, who takes the win with an 8.02.
What it is, what I'll need when you come into the staging beam, you brake your front brakes only so you can come in. And when you build the engine revs up, it should hold you. The fuse blew, crept me through, press it again, bang, and it's gone. So I blew it myself. Line lock just let go.
There's always next time.
Yeah, oh yeah, good weekend. I'm glad Andy won it anyway rather than somebody else, but what a hell of a weekend.
And finally, the big one, the final of Top Fuel. Liv Berstad from Norway, and if she could get close to or beat the 277 miles an hour of her semi-final run, a new European speed record would be hers. Against Mr. Cool, Rico Antes from Germany, the World Finals winner here last year. There's a speed record up for grabs here. How have you set it up? How have you managed to help here?
We've got after it a little bit down track to see if we can pick up the speed record this run. As you know, we ran on the leg of it last run, and I'm hoping to go maybe 281 or 2 this run.
Any particular advice before she goes?
Hang on.
And here they go, these two modern gladiators coming up to the start line for the now. And a colossal burnout there from Rico. What are we going to see from Liv? You can see the neat fuel coming out of the headers of these cars. They really are loaded. Well, I've got to be honest, I think these two are going for a new record here today. They are certainly, we've been talking all weekend about the first person into the fours, and the way these engines are set up here, they really look as though they are running heavy-duty nitro. And at the moment, I'm sitting looking at Liv Berstad, and it looks as though Liv has got some problems there. Maybe she can't find a reverser, because Rico Antes is coming back behind the start line now, and Liv is out. Her gloves are off, she's undoing her harness. She is out. So it's... Are they going to lean it out, or are they going to try and push the car back? Well, this could be a thing. They may well try and just push the car back. But certainly the engine is still running. But I don't know whether they can get that car back behind the start line in time to be competitive. But it seems as though the reverser has gone and they're having to manually push the car back. Well, this is incredible. And Rico is just sitting there. He's waiting for his adversary to come up to the start line. Real sportsmanship. And one of the crew from Liv Bierstadt waves to Rico. Well, they've done it. They've got her back behind the start line. Now, is this going to faze her as Rico comes up? Dale Denton out in front of Rico. And last final checks from Ruderfield and Ron Swearingen as they come up after all that pushing. And it's one only. From the start line, man, there's problems there for Liv, and Rico's going for it. This looks like a 4-second run. Whoa, so close, so close. 5.26, 263 miles per hour. And real drama on that start line.
Well, the frustrations of it, what happened?
I don't know. It was something, I couldn't get it in reverse. And then I couldn't get it in first gear. I don't know what it is. Something with the gearbox. I don't know.
I don't know what happened. She didn't get the car in reverse, so I thought she was maybe, when they pushed her back, maybe she was ready. I waited on her, almost overstaged the car because I waited so long, but she wasn't there.
Yes, it was a show of good sportsmanship. You at least gave her a good time to try and get to the start line.
As long as I could, yeah. Well, you always want to race somebody. It's not a one-man show here.
It's my first final since 1991, so I'm sure I want to run.
And the chance of a new European record if you had a good time?
I think it will be there.
5 minutes later, Liv Bierstadt went out and did a very fast run just to prove that final failure had been merely one of those drag racing things. The fastest, yet the most frustrating sport. You can go too early, you can go too late.
Cole Rule on the red and white bike, and Cole sitting there with the green on the tree.
Sometimes you don't go at all.
And problems there on the start line for Guy Chamberlain.
You can travel hundreds of miles from Scandinavia and race only a few feet.
Well, I don't know whether Vibeke Avestad has got a problem here, but she's just rolled across the start line. They had problems here yesterday with the clutch on this machine, and she's signalling it's no good.
Or thousands of miles from America and manage only a demonstration run.
We've got half of America over here with this car. Hey, that looks absolutely fantastic. Right the way through Mahala Thompson. Wow, 5.89, 235 at last. At last, everything works properly for the Budd car.
Or in Ian Dale's case, a skillful demonstration, after the crowds had gone, of manual gear changing to prove his point. Case dismissed. And remember Barry Sheebles, stalled on the line, didn't race, but that didn't stop him here.
So no failure on the start line this time. Here comes the green. That sounds very, very strong indeed. Very strong, that engine. That looks a great run, and the quickest ever for Barry Sheebles. What a shame he isn't in competition. 6.37, the quickest of all of our dragsters this weekend in the alcohol. Wonderful stuff, 215 miles per hour.
But you've proved to yourself and to everyone else that you can do this quick runs.
Yeah, today there's a headwind as well. They're 215 miles an hour into a headwind. Because normally I come past you.
and I pulled the parachutes and stopped dead. It took my breath away. Yeah, but we're happy. The lads are disappointed, but they've worked really hard, and that's what it's all about. It's teamwork, and we wanted to come back, and we just wanted to prove that we have actually got a good combination, and we think we have.
Unfortunate for you, but good run.
Yeah, thanks very much. Thank you.
And that sums it up from Santa Pod. It's motocross next week. Good night.